Oh, good morning. I think it's still morning, isn't it? Yeah, good morning, everyone. It's good to see everybody here. Yeah, well, this is the first time I've seen the car put together. And I was just been saying just standing reminiscing with Aldo, just that this is my 6th season with the team. And it's kind of crazy to think that it's been that long. But also seeing the development of the car each year. You know, this is the most exciting part of the year, obviously, till this point, to see the whole car come together. I have seen the development of the car for the last 8 months or so, and then just to see all the pieces come together, and it's a work of art, and it is really just incredible to see. I'm always in awe of the team, because there's so many people obviously in the team, so many moving parts, and to see them all come together and bring their genius, and then all of that it piles into this beautifully sculpted car is amazing. And then there's only 2 of us that get to drive it, you know, in the whole year. So it's such a unique privilege to have. And yeah, I just walked into the garage now and they took the cover off, and I'm just staring at it. I'm just like, how did they do that? You know, there's all these components that they, you know, if they've got 2 dampers on one part, they would have redesigned it to make it one this year so it's lighter. You know, just how everything evolves is quite phenomenal to see the technology move at the pace that it does. And yeah, and then I'm just excited to get out in it. Me and Toto have been talking for a while. I mean, obviously, once I left in December, I was away. And it's not something I particularly like to do over the phone. And I didn't get back until February. So I was away during that time, but we spoke very often, and we spoke about, we're constantly talking to each other, how we are committed to each other. So Toto knows that I know that there's no one better, so he's not going to be looking anywhere else, and he knows that I know there's no one else better, so I'm not looking anywhere else. And so we're comfortable, and we're committed to each other. It's just about always just talking out the details, always. Yeah, and I think hopefully we'll have something done before the beginning of the season, before the start of the first race. But again, we're just in no rush. There's just no reason to rush anything. There's no panic. I'm not feeling under any pressure of any other drivers being in there, and Toto has no reason to feel, and Mercedes have no reason to feel that I'm just talking to anybody else. In the whole 6 years that I've been here, I've not spoken to another team once. And I think that really shows my commitment. And I know that the team have been contacted by other drivers in the past, and probably still do today, and that's inevitable. But we always made it clear at the beginning that if I was to engage and look at my options, I would inform him, and I've not needed to, because I haven't.
Something else Toto said, which was interesting, was he talked about wanting to take a chainsaw to the Halo.
No, honestly, I think the team have done a great job to integrate it and make it look as nice as it can look. And it's a fact, something we've known for some time now that it was coming. And I think honestly, it's the beginning of the season. I think after a few races, we'll forget that it's even there. And we'll look at the old cars and think that, you often look at the old car and you think it's so dated. So this is the new world right now, and I'm sure it's only the first step of evolution, of development for this safety level. And but it is heavy. The cars are getting heavier. So then it's a big car, but it's streamlined as much as it can be. This is an evolution of last year's car, so it will handle and fit. The ergonomics are all the same. With the cockpit, he will be sitting it's the same seat from last year, so same controls. So there's none of that learning that he's going to need to do there. So for sure, immediately that means he's already more comfortable. And it's a car that we've both pushed and developed through the year last year. So what we see today is an evolution of both of our driving DNA fused into one. And I hope that he's more comfortable in it today. That can only bode well for the team. It's definitely not moved any away from me. I'm very, very close to my engineers, and I'm very much on top of that. So yeah, it's going to be a challenge, and the car's obviously going to be quicker this year, so it'll be interesting to see how we get on with it. Yeah, I'm going to try and veer off the negativity, but I mean, the cars are getting heavier and heavier each year, and that does obviously affect the braking zones. That makes it, there's various challenges in that. Obviously, the brakes are always on the limit, and they're not really developing much further than they have been the last couple of years. The technology is kind of limited at the moment in the carbon industry, and so that becomes more and more of a challenge of cooling. But I think the team have handled it very well, moving from last year's experience with a heavier car. It is going to be quicker, so physically I think the physical level steps up a bit, which is, again, that's in the right direction. But yeah, I mean, the cars, I hope they don't get much heavier than they are, but again, next year I think the seat and the driver can be 80 kilos or something like that, so I can be a bodybuilder next year, basically, and get the beach look I want. And but yeah, I mean, there are parts of the lighter cars and more nimble cars that I prefer of the past. Easier to overtake, easier to maneuver in combat, as well as the heavier cars. It gets slower, and the heavier they are, they will just continue to get slower in that respect. The role that obviously I'm not in the engineer's office. I'm not designing anything. My role and our role as drivers is naturally to take whatever package we're given and take it to the limit and exploit it. And then obviously in doing so, I mean, the engineers are all about numbers. So to them, they'll see a bunch of numbers and they're like, it can be perfect in all these different scenarios, and the simulation drives it around perfectly. But the simulator doesn't come across the same scenarios as a real driver would moving around the circuit. So my job is to explain the weaknesses and putting a feeling into technical terms so that a team can go and design something to fix it. So I'm really hopeful that this year we've ironed out quite a lot of the creases. There's a different aerodynamic characteristic this year compared to last year, taking some of that, some of the good from last year, but there were circuits we went to that we weren't as strong. So hopefully we've found a compromise which will favor the majority of the Grand Prix circuits. And again, other things like some of the suspension, some of the roll issues that we had, some of the ride issues we had, some of the floor characteristics, those things will be improved quite a lot. But everything's brand new. All the suspension, everything has been redone. And I think places like, I think, you remember last year in Malaysia, I can't remember the result we had in Malaysia, but we had a very in-depth debrief afterwards. And those particular debriefs that we had were significant in making today's car. And in those debriefs, only Valtteri and I talk, really. So,
what do you expect from Ferrari for next year?
Well, it'll be red, and
more red than last year. Anyway. No, I mean the competition.
I think it's going to be, well, it's difficult to know, and this is obviously a very exciting time to. You see the pictures come out, and they give you the ones that have been posted or in Autosport or in the race magazines are all a very vague image. You can't really see the items that I have in the car. I think I've not even seen the Red Bull yet, but I think last year when that turned up, it had no furniture on it. It was very basic. They had a long way to. Their development curve was quite steep from the year. They were second and a bit behind, and then with us at the end. So, but I think coming into this year, being that we ended the season, Ferrari, Red Bull, and ourselves are very, very close. I anticipate this year would probably be quite similar in that sense. So I think you're going to see a tougher battle this year. And who knows, there might be another team. I'm not really aware of how McLaren potentially are doing, but hopefully there's more in the mix and it's tighter. I had a slightly different winter. I mean, I started off in Colorado. Actually, I started in Los Angeles and then I was in Colorado. There was no snow, but I was with family. And then I made a trip out to Japan with Monster, which was pretty epic. I got to snowboarding is what I love doing in the winter, so I do as much as I can. But to be honest, I didn't get a lot of vertical feet this year because there wasn't any snow, very, very little snow, so it was more icy in Colorado, so I don't really take too much risk with that respect. But then I went to Japan, and that was pretty incredible. I went surfing in Japan that day, one of the days where I think it was raining a little bit, so we didn't snowboard. We went to the sea, which you could see from the mountain. So it was a good experience because I love Japan. So and the food was great. And then I did some training there, and then I flew back to Europe. I was there for a couple of weeks, and then I was back over in the States. I went surfing with Kelly Slater, which was pretty awesome. I say I went surfing, but I did a lot of swimming because I'm not the greatest surfer yet. But the goal is to improve. I think it's great for working out because you're paddling the whole time. It's quite physical. I got down to a 6.2 board, so I was quite happy with my progress. And I'm always looking, my dream's always when I watch these top surfers like Kelly, you see him on the big wave and the big barrel coming over. I'm crazy, so I'm like, that's where I want to be. So I go for the biggest waves and I get barreled over. And I did great training out there in Hawaii, which was beautiful. And then came back, and it was actually the longest break that I've had in 10 years, because normally you have a bit of December and a bit of January, and then you're back. But the team were great to enable me the time to really recharge, because it's been a long hard slog last year, and so to recharge, have family around me, I feel great finally. I think if I'd come back a month earlier, I probably wouldn't feel as well as I do now.
How long did it take, honestly, to sink in that you are now a 4-time world champion? And how often did you think about moving alongside Fangio, maybe with the win of the championship this year? Is that some mind games that play a role for you?
Honestly, when we left Abu Dhabi, there are some days out following that where you're in the factory, you're around people who are quite hype about the fact you've won the championship, but then you forget about it. And when I was with my family the weekend through Colorado and Japan, I didn't think a single thought of motor racing. There wasn't, and unfortunately I had no one reminding me that I was a 4-time world champion, so you kind of forget about it and go back to normality. And then as you enter into the new year and you start your training and you start to try and figure out, why are you training? What are you working? What are your goals? What are you moving forwards to? It's kind of a discovery thing. It's not as simple as just writing it down. You have to really try and figure out where you're going to find the determination and the drive. I would say only in the last couple of days I saw something about being up there potentially with Fangio, so that is quite exciting prospect. That's quite an exciting prospect, and I feel like I'm in the best shape that I've been. I say that every year, but I train differently each year, and this year I think being that the cars are quicker, you need to be stronger. So right now I'm a little bit heavier than that I will be for the first race. Now from now till then, it's about cutting the fat percentage down, but keeping the strength. But I think there were areas in last year which were great, but I want to improve on those. Consistency was awesome last year, so if I can take some of the ingredients of last year and add a couple of spices in this year, I think we can have a better year.
Talking about Ferrari and Vettel, last year was a little bit stressing. Even if you are very self-controlled, do you think that maybe this year the tension between you and Vettel can grow a little bit or not?
Well, you would have to expect that it could be worse. Always expect for the worst, and hopefully it will be better. But this year, in the fact that it is going to be a closer season, we have no idea what we're going to face. But what I can say is last year was a positive year in respect of handling the different situations that I faced. And I think generally over the last few years, I've been not too bad at it. So I'll be even better this year, so it shouldn't be an issue either way. What's really focused for me is just making sure I'm performing at my best, because that's when, hopefully if I am performing at my best, then there will be issues because they'll be upset about it.
And do you think that mind game will be crucial?
Honestly, I don't play mind games. I just drive faster. Simple.